Hey, what's going on, guys? It's FPL Yusuf here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys my first official draft of the new season. I'm going to cover my whole team in general. We're going to look at some nice rotating pairs in this video, and we'll also look at some potential changes that may be done to this squad before we get to the game week 1 deadline due to players coming in, new transfers happening, and a whole lot more. So I do hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. But without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me today for another video on my YouTube channel. So like I said in the intro, this is my first official draft of the new season. I haven't really put too much thought into it, if truth be told. It's kind of just been like a quick put together. I've had a look at some different teams rotating fixtures just to see if we can sort of balance it out. So we've always got some players with decent fixtures regardless of what position they're playing in. But we'll start off in goal first. And I've gone for a double up of the Forest goalkeeper. So we've got Matt Sells as our main keeper. We've obviously got Carlos Miguel as the backup 4.5. I don't expect him to play. Is it a lot of money to spend on two goalkeepers? 9.5 million so far. I think it's probably the average of where most people are going to be at. You know, either a 5.5 million keeper and a 4 million backup, or you go for a 5 and a 4.5. There is potential that I go and get an actual 4.5 million playing goalkeeper. I just think for me, obviously I like having two keepers from the same team so that if one doesn't play for whatever reason, I know it's very unlikely, but you also have the backup there. I don't really expect myself to be having any other Nottingham Forest players either. So doubling up on Forest for, a goalkeeper in the backup isn't really too much of a problem for me. I think Forest have got a decent start to the season. It's not amazing, but it's okay. Sells was very good last season. He made save points. He kept clean sheets. Usually with that coupled together, he will end up getting bonus points as well. And I think just for 5 million, I don't think he's actually a bad goalkeeper. Is there other alternatives out there? Yes. Robert Sanchez was someone that I was looking at. Obviously, Chelsea got a good start to the season, but it's just more him as a goalkeeper I don't trust as much. I am keeping a very close eye on James Trafford, though, because there is talks that he might be going back to Manchester City. Edison might be on his way out. Now, if that happens, then I think that my keeper situation will change. I think, without going to the rest of the team, as of yet, I've obviously got a triple up of Man City players, which means one of them would have to come out because I probably want to prioritise putting Trafford in, just because City have got an actual decent start to the season. I think they've only got sort of like Arsenal as like the hardest game in the first sort of 6. So yeah, for me, right now it's Matt Sells, but like I said, this could change. I'm going to keep an eye and see what Man City do around their goalkeeper situation. But yeah, for now, double up on the Nottingham Forest goalkeepers. Okay, so into defence. Now, we're going to keep on the theme of Manchester City, and I have gone for Aït-Nouri. Now, this was really a 50-50 choice between him and Gabbardiol. Part of me thinks that he is good value for money in terms of what Aït-Nouri brings to the table with goals and assists, coupled that with the more clean sheets he'll get from Manchester City. 6 million being the highest for a defender so far at the start of the season, I think is crazy value. I think the risk that comes with Aït-Nouri is he going to start, right? That's the big thing, which is why I was 50-50 on Gabbardiol, because obviously Gabbardiol can play left back, but he can also play centre back. Now, he did play really well at centre back last season, which makes me think that he's probably going to stay there and Aït-Nouri is going to start. However, you just never know with Pep and Manchester City. 1 minute it's one thing, next minute it's another thing. And I just think Gvardiol's probably got the security of playing, either position, which means he's probably going to be in the team for most weeks, which that's kind of where my thinking is going a little bit. There is a potential that I do go for a double up there and move Tijani Reinders out, but we'll come on to him in a little bit because I do like him as an option, just to, go for a double City defence, which would mean losing Gabriel, who we're going to come on to now. Obviously, like I said, 6 million is the max price for a defender. So they're all three of them, Aït-Nouri, Gvardiol and Gabriel, all priced at the same sort of money. And same with Saliba as well. So Arsenal have got a tricky start to the season. They've got a decent opening 2, but after the next 4, they have like Manchester City, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. They've got, it's difficult fixtures, which makes me think maybe that there could be an early transfer used in there to remove Gabriel, or instead of just using that early transfer, maybe just going without Gabriel for the first 2, letting Arsenal have their first 6 come out the way, then looking to move, one of Gvardiol, Aït-Nouri to Gabriel. So it's a 50-50 right now with all 3 of them. I'm going to keep Gabriel in there just because, 1, I'm an Arsenal fan and I do want to have some Arsenal representation in here, but 2, Gabriel from set pieces is always a threat and always a problem. So it is a toss-up between, having Aït-Nouri, Gvardiol and Gabriel. I think 2 out of the 3 probably will be in my team. It's just which 2 is the big question. Okay, moving on. Next is Mickey van der Ven. Now, he's in there as a 4.5. There are other options at 4.5 for Tottenham Hotspur. Destiny Udogi's one. I just think Van der Ven will start and he will play. And obviously, with the new defensive contributions this year, centre-backs are a little bit more appealing because my only problem is I don't know whether it's going to be Udogi or Jed Spence who's starting at the left-back spot. I think Pedro Porro will start on the right. I think the left-back is a little bit more tricky to try and sort of predict who it's going to be. Whereas Van der Ven, you know he's going to start. I think Tottenham will be better defensively with Thomas Frank. And I just think that, like I said, with the defensive contributions into the game this year, it makes players like Mickey Van der Ven, these players who before we wouldn't even looked at because they don't really have much upside, it does give them a different sort of scope to be looking through now. So he's going to be my third defender in here right now. And the final two we're going to talk about together because they come as a package deal. First up is Ezri Konsa from Aston Villa for 4.5 million. And I've also gone for Aaron Wan-Bissaka for 4.5 million. Now, the reason why I've gone for these two is that obviously there are other 4.5 million defenders out there. I think both of these are nailed for their clubs. Both clubs, you know, on their day have potential for good clean sheets. The reason why I've gone for these two in particular is that they rotate so nicely between each other. So between Aston Villa and West Ham, they play 6 promoted teams in the first 12. Now, that's one every other game, essentially. So, you know, you're guaranteed with one of these two, they're always going to have a very good fixture for the first 12 weeks. So for me, I just thought it was almost like an opportunity you couldn't pass up on. You know, when you've got a pair that rotate like that, both at 4.5 million, both are going to play for their clubs. They just had to go in there for me. So yeah, like I said, there are other 4.5 millions, but I just think with the way these two rotate nicely with each other, it just makes sense to own both of them. Okay, so let's move on to the midfield now. And this is one part of the team that I'm really happy with. I think we've got really good strength in the midfield. You know, I put a lot of money into it, but I do think it works nicely. So we'll start off first with Cole Palmer. Now, he's had a great preseason with Chelsea. Obviously, you know, Chelsea winning the Club World Cup. He was instrumental in the final, picking up a brace. And I do think, I know he had a bit of a rough patch towards the end of last season, you know, the last couple of months. You know, a lot of us were getting frustrated with him. But I do think that this season, I think we're going to see a different Cole Palmer. I think we'll probably end up seeing the one or the version of him that was in the first season at Chelsea, you know, where he was just being instrumental to the team. I think, you know, obviously with Maresca coming in, it sort of took Chelsea a little bit of time to sort of figure out how they're going to play, how Palmer fits into the system. But I think now we've seen through preseason that he's obviously got off to a good start. He's looking like he knows his role more. And I just think obviously with the additions of João Pedro, you know, Chelsea have got other few players coming in. I just think it's going to help Palmer accelerate that much more as well. So he was one of the first players that I wanted to get in this team, actually, funnily enough. So he's in there. Somebody who is in a lot of competition with Palmer is Saka. Now, Saka for me and Arsenal, everything goes for him. Like, he's so instrumental in how Arsenal play, and that's exactly why I've had to find a way to get him in there. Now, it's worth me saying that this could change. Obviously, it's looking like Gyökeres is going to sign for Arsenal. Now, if he does, and we get the confirmation, we see Gyökeres in the Arsenal shirt, this team is going to change dramatically because he will be going straight into my team. In an ideal world, you'd want Saka and Gyökeres together because I just think if Arsenal are going to score, it's probably going to be something to do with one of them two. So yeah, for the time being, Gyökeres obviously hasn't signed for Arsenal, so Saka's in there. But even if he does sign, I'm going to have to find a way to somehow put him in. But I'm happy to own Palmer and Saka. It's a lot of money on 2 players in the midfield, but I do think that over the course of the season, you will reap the rewards from having both of them. Florian Wirtz is the third man up. Now, he, as we spoke about him, you know, a lot over the last week. You know, I think a lot of people have been talking about his price in particular, and he is very, very much undervalued in my opinion as well. I think 8.5 million is a bit of a steal. Now, obviously, the big omission from this team is Mo Salah. Now, the reason why I've gone for Florian Wirtz as a guarantee pick, one is because I have no Liverpool assets, so he is the one who's going to be covering the attack. Now, last season, we all thought, especially at the start of the season, could we cover with a Jota? You know, sad what's happened to obviously him, but that was the big question, is that could we cover with a Luis Diaz, you know, a Darwin Núñez, a Cody Gakpo? Like, those are the could we make up for Salah's goals essentially? And I think the big thing we learned is no, essentially, is the answer. Like, no matter how many Liverpool assets you have, you know, you can own 2 out of the 3 attackers, but once again, it's always Mo Salah. He's on penalties. He's just so good at scoring goals. This time round, though, I think it's either got to be a case of either Haaland or Salah. Right now, at the time we recorded this, I have gone for Erling Haaland. Like I said, Florian Wirtz is going in there just to kind of cover the Liverpool attack in some way. I do think Wirtz will probably be a little bit more direct than the others, than a Gakpo, than a Diaz. So I am expecting a little bit more from Florian Wirtz, but I just think at the price point of 8.5 million, even if he takes a little bit of time to get going, I just think he's just someone that you can't pass up on at that price point. Now, my fourth player midfielder is Tijani Reinders. Now, I couldn't believe the price he was coming in at. So he's currently 5.5 million, which I think, again, is criminally underpriced. Now, I watched City play a few games in the Club World Cup, and when I saw him play, A, he was getting forward and getting in and around the box, but B, he just looks like such an efficient player. And these are the type of players that I like seeing. He almost reminds me of Gundogan from a few years back, where he just sort of makes those third man runs into the box. I do think he's going to play most games. You know, City spent a lot of money on him, but at 5.5 million, I think is a steal. So yeah, Tijani Reinders is in there, obviously to make budget work, but I do think he will get game time. And my last midfielder is Chris Rigg from Sunderland. I think this could be his breakout season. Obviously, now Joe Bellingham's gone, I think it will be him and Enzo Lefebvre playing in the centre of the park for Sunderland. Obviously, we're not expecting a massive amount from them that, I think a lot of people have kind of got them predicted to go straight back down. But Chris Rigg, very hot young prospect. And I think, there is opportunities for him to get game time this season. Obviously, he's not probably going to play much. He's kind of just in there again for budget reasons. But yeah, that sort of comes together and brings my midfield, which allowed me to get Saka, the Palmers, the Haalands of the world. So yeah, whatever team you're going with, something's going to have to be sacrificed somewhere. So but I'm happy overall with the midfield. Like I said, Palmer and Saka were the two that I wanted in there. We have got them, but it is subject to change. And finally, the forward line. So, like I said, I have chosen to go Erling Haaland over Mo Salah. This may well change come game week 1. Something may happen through preseason. Maybe someone gets injured. Maybe we'll see one of them hit in really good form. I just think for me, the reason why I've urged towards Erling Haaland, one, I think City will be back stronger this year. They had a bad season last year by their standards, and I do think that they will be coming back to try and push back for the Premier League title, which means Haaland's goals will be crucial. But I also think that I am also wondering, is there other options to go forward, like the Jarrod Bones of the world? He's coming in at a lot less cheaper than Erling Haaland, and maybe it's going to take Man City a little bit of time to get up and running. The only good thing about their fixtures is that they get off to a really good start. Like I said, I think Arsenal's probably their toughest fixture in the first 6. So I don't really want to go without Erling Haaland for that opening run. I do think that Man City can score goals. They've got a new look team. Obviously, Nori down that left hand side will be getting balls into the box. Like I said, Tijani Reinders playing very nice, like intricate football, which all just leads me to think that Haaland will get chances this season. And I do think that as of right now, I can only see it being either one of Haaland or Salah. However, like I said, if Victor Gyökeres does sign for Arsenal, if Ekitike does sign for Liverpool, that puts the Haaland into consideration, because then the question becomes can you get a Gyökeres and an Ekitike for the price of an Erling Haaland? So we'll have to wait and see. But at the time of recording this video, Haaland is going to be in my team. He is partnered with João Pedro up front. I do think Chelsea are going to have a good season this year. João Pedro was somebody that I never really took to at Brighton. I didn't think he was all that good. I thought, most of his goals were kind of reliant on penalties, which obviously at Chelsea is not going to happen because Cole Palmer's on them. However, I do think, Chelsea obviously will create more chances than Brighton. And maybe this could be a chance for João Pedro to actually put his name on the map as, one of the better youngsters in the Premier League. Obviously, he had a great Club World Cup with Chelsea when he went there, got a few goals whilst, in those few games he played. So something to keep an eye on. Obviously, he's not that far away from the likes of Jarrod Bowen in price, which could be an easy switch. Obviously, West Ham got a nice 2 opening run fixtures, but Chelsea do have good fixtures to open up as well. So I think for me right now, João Pedro is a nicely priced asset. I do think he will start for Chelsea, and I do think that, in order to make the other players in the team work budget-wise, you have to sacrifice something. So as of right now, João Pedro will be in my team. I do expect him to be there come game week 1, if I'm being honest. Despite Gyökeres, despite Ekitike, I do think João Pedro will be there because he's just a nice price point into that Chelsea attack. And the final man is Michael Obafemi. Obviously, again, not much to talk about on him. He is there solely for budget reasons. But that does conclude my team. This is my just initial reaction to my first draft. Like I said, I haven't really put too much thought and time into it, but this is currently what I've got. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. I'll be back probably later on in the week with another draft, but it will be a draft ready for a bench boost game week 1. Now, I did speak about this in my last video that obviously with the double chips coming in now, everyone's got obviously double a bench boost, a free hit, a triple captain. So we've all got those extra chips now. I noticed that even through previous seasons, some people have decided to use their bench boost for game week 1. So they've used their game week 1 team as basically like a wildcard draft. They bench boost game week 1, get those extra points, and then wild card straight into game week 2. So what I will do is, towards the back end of this week, I will do a draft specifically for that, because I do think it's a viable option this time, because even if it doesn't go as well as you thought, you obviously do have the second chip later down the line. So yeah, I will be making a draft for that later on this week. But if you guys have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to drop a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe down below, and I'll catch you guys next time.